Hello, I'm State Representative Jim Buchy from the 84th House District. Welcome to Ohio in Focus.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of Ohio in Focus, a program that brings state government to you. I'm your host, Carolyn Best. We have with us today State Representative Jim Buchy, who serves the 84th House District, which includes all of Mercer County and parts of Auglaize, Darke, and Shelby counties. Thank you for joining us, Representative.
It's always a pleasure, Carolyn. Thanks for the privilege.
Oh, you're welcome. So we'll just get started here. Regarding the severance tax, House Bill 375, which passed through the House last week, it places modifications on the severance tax regarding extraction. Has to do with the industry, oil and gas. Can you tell us why that's important to Ohio and our economy?
Well, we've been really blessed, Carolyn, because of the recent find of all this shale and gas in eastern Ohio and so on. And what it's doing is creating tremendous opportunities for private sector investment in jobs. Already we've had over $5 billion in capital equipment invested by the oil and gas companies to extract the gas, and we've had thousands of new jobs. I know we have over 8,000 new jobs, and that figure just grows every day. So what we're talking about is a really building of a strong economy in eastern Ohio.
Great. And 375 talks a lot about where the funding will go from the severance tax. How will this revenue benefit Ohio, and how is it going to be implemented?
Well, of course, the severance taxes that are going to be in place are going to be reasonable so that they don't stifle the growth of the industry, but still provide some funding for such things in the Department of Natural Resources to maintain and grow the regulatory process as the industry matures. Then there's going to be monies used to cap orphan wells. Orphan wells are wells that have played out and they've been abandoned. So what we're going to do is cap them so that there won't be any problem for the environment. So part of that tax will go to that. Part of it will go for mapping around the state. Part of it's going to go about close to 20% of that revenue is going to go back to the local counties and townships to help with infrastructure and needs as it relates to the cost of the industry being in the area. And then a big portion, part as well, will be a further reduction of our state personal income tax for everybody. And of course, that is very important as we continue to grow the economy. The more money we have in our pockets, the better it is for everybody. So that's the benefits of this package.
And switching gears to education, Common Core is an issue, a little bit of a controversial one here in the state. Can you tell me why was Common Core implemented? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the intention of Common Core is honorable. In other words, what the powers that be want to do is to initiate a nationwide program so that if you have mobile students, somebody from Texas moves to Ohio, for example, no matter what grade they're in K through 12, that they'll eventually, that's the intention is to make sure when they move, wherever they move, they go right on because they're up to speed with what's being taught in the classrooms in the new school that the kids are moving into. So that's an honorable intention, but in reality, it's just not working.
And why is it such a contentious issue? What are the different sides of it?
I'm opposed to Common Core because I believe that it is a further centralization of education. In other words, I think that the end goal is to nationalize education. Now, in my lifetime, I've seen such good programs as Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, healthcare. We're watching the best healthcare system in the world implode in front of us here. So why do we want to nationalize education when we here in Ohio can do a much better job? And I'll tell you, quite frankly, in the 84th House District, I've got the best schools in the state, and we're better than that.
And are there any new updates, here in the state regarding Common Core or around the legislature?
Well, yes, there's legislation that has some language that's been inserted that's going to put the focus on Ohio to become more dominant in what is going to be taught in the future. Now, you understand, Common Core is about standards, but unfortunately, there's some curriculum that's coming to those standards. We already have English and math in place. Those standards are in place, and it's being taught. Now, there's new curriculum that's coming that still isn't finalized, and we don't know what it's going to do. And quite frankly, I trust the educators and the professionals in Ohio to do a better job of teaching to our children than I do somebody from someplace else. And quite frankly, we need more involvement at the local level, at the state level, in determining the curriculum and the information that's going to be taught to our children. And the more we do that, the better we'll be. And we don't need Common Core to do that.
And as far as, constituents who agree with you, is there something that they can do to make a difference with this issue? Well,
of course, the more they can communicate with the local school boards to indicate to them that they need input into the situation, that's going to be helpful. As a matter of fact, in the legislation, there is going to be more parental involvement working with the local schools and at the state level in committees that deal with these subjects.
Great. And keeping on the topic of education, Senate Bill 229 deals with teacher evaluations.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about your views with teacher evaluations?
Well, of course, Carol and I got my start in public service and being a member of the Greenville Board of Education. So I started out in the trenches and on the front lines with education. And quite frankly, I have a lot of trust in the ability of our superintendents and administrators and so on to evaluate our teachers. The purpose of evaluation is not elimination. The purpose of evaluation is to help those teachers that need a little bit of shoring up in some areas to be able to get that help so that they can be better. The whole purpose of top teaching and top education is to get more productivity in the classroom so our kids learn more. I mean, they're the people that mold the future, and it's the most honorable profession there is. And so I've always trusted the judgment of the people who are in management to take care of that situation. But unfortunately, the powers that be again, they got to get in the act, and now we're to the point where there's so darn much time spent in evaluation, and for that matter, testing, to this park test and all this other stuff we're doing. We're spending more time focusing on evaluations and testing than we are productivity in the classroom, and it's out of whack a little bit here. We've got to get it back.
And how does Senate Bill 229? How does that bill work with that? What do you support this legislation?
Well, right now it's a work in progress, and the Senate had a version, and then the House added to it, and so it's probably going to hit some middle ground someplace along the line. And when it does, hopefully it'll make it better. But I still come back to the folks in the schools. They know how to evaluate.
And do you have any ideas as far as how evaluation should be implemented? Or any, how do you think you're affecting change in this area with this bill?
Well, I always try to, there's two words that miss a lot in government. The two words are common sense. And so I'm trying to, I've been around here for a long, I've had the cards shuffled in my deck a lot, and I can tell you that I just feel that the more we can focus on using common sense in the equation, that the better results we're going to get in the classroom, and it's just that simple.
Well, going back to the topic of Ohio and the valuable resource of our natural gas here, Senate Bill 310 works with this, and it freezes the renewable energy portfolio mandates. Can you tell us a little bit about this bill and what that means for Ohio?
Sure. Well, this is a result of legislation that was passed in 2008. Of course, I wasn't here then. And what the legislation basically did was require that the state of Ohio purchase 25% of its energy by 2025 from alternative sources, from renewable sources. And so, and things have happened since that legislation was passed. I mean, on paper at that time, it looked like it was a smart move, but one of the big things that's happened is the find of shale gas. Carolyn, two things that have been contributed to the success of the United States of America is high productivity. We have the best workforce in the world. There's nobody that works as hard and as efficiently and as good as American workers. Second part of that equation is cheap energy. And unfortunately, what we have with this mandate is we're creating a false situation that is going to cost the ratepayers more money. Now, we're being told that we're saving lots of money and we're creating lots of jobs, but I got to tell you, we're not. For example, a wind turbine. It costs about $4 million to build a wind turbine, okay? 40% of that is subsidized by the taxpayers. So 4 million, that's $1.6 million out of every turbine that the taxpayers are paying for up front to build them. Then that's through credits and so on. All right, so now that means that the electricity that they produce off of that is going to go onto the grid to the power companies at a price that's higher than coal, which is the cheapest and most abundant way to produce it, along with now natural gas. Natural gas is very environmentally friendly. It's clean, and it's a whole lot cheaper than wind or solar. However, it's not as cheap as coal, but still it's less than those other two. And so what I'm saying is, it's not subsidized like the alternative energy. So what that means is, I don't care how you cut it, ratepayers are paying more for it.
And so do you support this legislation, Senate Bill 310, and what does it mean for our economy?
Well, what it means is that what we're going to do is we're going to freeze. What we're doing is stop. We're going to take a snapshot of where we are since 2008. There's a study committee that's going to take a look at this to see in the future, are there situations that we can look at that maybe make this work or not, or modifications. So what we're just saying is, hey, time out. Let's take a look at it and see about the future. So I support that very much.
Great. Well, I guess in closing, how can constituents reach you at your office? Can you provide some details?
Well, our phone number is 614-466-6344. Email is rep84@ohiohouse.gov. And I always encourage all of you viewers to take my online surveys. I want to know what you think, because the more you tell me what you think, it helps me work for you better here in Columbus. So that's at tinyurl.com/Buchy June 2014.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Representative. It was so nice having you here.
I always enjoy this, Carolyn. Thank you for having this show.
You're welcome. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you again on the next edition of Ohio in Focus, the program that brings state government to you. Thank you for joining us.